Today is Wednesday, July 22nd. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are trudging along Bill's story. We're on page 12. Out of the 12 and 12, we are beginning step 3. We will be reading page 34. And of course, we'll read NA's Just for Today and Al-Anon's Courage to Change. So with that, hope y'all are doing well this morning, my friends. It is Wednesday. We are halfway through already. It's hard to believe that, but it's just so nice just to wake up sober today. You hear the birds chirping. And just another opportunity to work the program and live a life of integrity. To enjoy this day, this moment. Yesterday's done. I can just enjoy this time that I've been given. I love it. So with that, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. All right, my friends. So if you recall from yesterday's reading out of Bill's story, he at first was thinking about all of his prejudices of his childhood and religion, and it was a mixed bag. At times he thought there might be a creator, and other times he kind of had a bad taste in his mouth about, well, based on some of his grandfather's influence and everything about a religion, an organized religion. But he can't deny the fact that something miraculous has happened to his dear friend Abby, because Abby's sitting right across from him, sober, happy, joyous, and free here. And Abby tells him about this simple program of action, and this is playing a big impact on Bill. So we're going to build on that. And by the way, Abby's going to bring up a very novel idea for Bill today. So I'm excited to read that part. So we're on the bottom of page 11, and we're going to read all of page 12. I saw that my friend was much more than inwardly reorganized. He was on a different footing. His roots grasped a new soil. Despite the living example of my friend, there remained in me the vestiges of my old prejudice. The word God still aroused certain antipathy. When the thought was expressed that there might be a God personal to me, this feeling was intensified. I didn't like the idea. I could go for such conceptions as creative intelligence, universal mind, or spirit of nature, but I resisted the thought of a czar of the heavens, however loving his sway might be. I've since talked with scores of men who felt the same way. My friend suggested what seemed a novel idea. He said, "Why don't you choose your own conception of God?" That statement hit me hard. It melted the icy intellectual mountain in whose shadow I had lived and shivered many years. I stood in the sunlight at last. It was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. I saw the growth could start from that point. Upon a foundation of complete willingness, I might build what I saw in my friend. Would I have it? Of course I would. Thus was I convinced that God is concerned with us humans when we want Him enough. At long last, I saw, I felt, I believed. Scales of pride and prejudice fell from my eyes. A new world came into view. The real significance of my experience in the cathedral burst upon me. For a brief moment, I had needed and wanted God. There had been a humble willingness to have Him with me, and He came. But soon the sense of His presence had been blotted out by worldly clamors, mostly within myself. And so it has been ever since. How blind I had been. Out of the 12 and 12, we're on step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And we are on page 34 today. Practicing step 3 is like the opening of a door which, to all appearances, is still closed and locked. All we need is a key and the decision to swing the door open. There is only one key, and it is called willingness. Once unlocked by willingness, the door opens almost of itself. And looking through it, we shall see a pathway beside which is an inscription. It reads, "This is the way to a faith that works." In the first 2 steps, we were engaged in reflection. We saw that we were powerless over alcohol. But we also perceived that faith of some kind, if only in AA itself, is possible to anyone. These conclusions did not require action. They required only acceptance. Like all the remaining steps, step 3 calls for affirmative action. For it is only by action that we can cut away the self-will which has always blocked us from the entry of God, or, if you like, a higher power, into our lives. Faith, to be sure, is necessary, but faith alone can avail nothing. We can have faith, yet keep God out of our lives. Therefore, our problem now becomes just how and by what specific means shall we be able to let Him in? Step 3 represents our first attempt to do this. In fact, the effectiveness of the whole AA program will rest upon how well and earnestly we have tried to come to a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. NA just for today, July 22nd. Spiritual death. For us, to use is to die, often in more ways than one. Basic text, page 82. As newcomers, many of us came to our first meeting with only a small spark of life remaining. That spark, our spirit, wants to survive. Narcotics Anonymous nurtures that spirit. The love of the fellowship quickly fans that spark into a flame. With the 12 steps and the love of other recovering addicts, we begin to blossom to that whole, vital human being our higher power intended us to be. We begin to enjoy life, finding purpose in our existence. Each day we choose to stay clean. Our spirit is revitalized, and our relationship with our God grows. Our spirit becomes stronger each day we choose life by staying clean. Despite the fact that our new life in recovery is rewarding, the urge to use can sometimes be overwhelming. When everything in our lives seems to go wrong, a return to using can seem like the only way out. But we know what the consequences will be if we use. The loss of our carefully nurtured spirituality. We have traveled too far along the spiritual path to dishonor our spirit by using. Snuffing the spiritual flame that we have worked so hard to restore in our recovery is too dear a price to pay for getting high. Just for today, I am grateful that my spirit is strong and vital. Today, I will honor that spirit by staying clean. Al-Anon's Courage to Change, July 22nd. Al-Anon's suggested closing says that though you may not like all of us, you'll love us in a very special way, the same way we already love you. In other words, every Al-Anon meeting can be an opportunity to practice placing principles above personalities. Most of us are highly aware of the personalities of people around us. Instead of getting lost in petty likes and dislikes, it's important to remember why we come to meetings. We all need each other in order to recover. I don't have to like everybody, but I want to look deeper to find the spirit that we share in common. Perhaps I can find peace with each person by reminding myself of those things that draw us together. A common interest, a common belief, a common goal. I will then have a resource for strength rather than a target for negative thinking. I will have placed principles above personalities. Today's reminder: I will keep an open mind toward each person I encounter today. If I am ready to learn, anyone can be my teacher. The open door to helpful answers is communication based on love. Such communication depends on awareness of and respect for each other's well-being and willingness to accept in another what may not measure up to our own standards and expectations. Quote from The Dilemma of the Alcoholic Marriage. All right, my friends, that concludes today's reading and some beautiful stuff. I love the interaction with Bill and Abby here. And Abby brings up the idea, and remember those squiggly lines? I've always been told that those squiggly lines, those italics, now we're in the first printing of the big book, were actually more expensive of a font to print. So they didn't do it much, but when they did, that must have meant that it was important, that they were willing to pay a little bit extra for that line. So the first line was, "Why don't you choose your own conception of God?" You know, Abby might have recognized some of the prejudice that was still in Bill. And when Bill hears that, he's like, huh. That statement hit me hard. It melted the icy intellectual mountain in whose shadow I had lived and shivered for many years. I stood in the sunlight at last. Now some more squiggly writing on page 12. It was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have to believe in the God that you believe or anything like that. Just anything more powerful than me. And then the next line, still in squigglies, nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. And I love that line right there because that reminds me that, hey, let's not get hung up on the details here. Rob, just keep working the steps. Don't let anything hinder you from doing this. Just make a beginning, and then don't worry. Like my opinions or my view of my higher power may change over time. But hey, this is a start. Something more powerful than you, Rob. And that was very easy. All I had to do was look around the room and see all the miracles around me. And I realized, holy cow, well, something's working for them. I think I'll listen to what they have to say. But I love that. I don't get paralyzed with a paralysis by analysis. It's beautiful. And then the next line, not in squigglies, but it's a great line. I saw that growth could start from that point. 100%. Anything more powerful than me, which is quite a lot, actually. And then I think it's in it's either the NA Just for Today or the Al-Anon Courage to Change, but looking for the similarities rather than the differences. And then the line, anybody can be my teacher if I'm willing to learn. One thing that I have been taught from a dear friend, he would always say it, Rob, remain teachable. And I've learned from experience that every single person that comes into the rooms, every single person around me, if I really hone in and study them and what makes them tick and how they respond to certain situations, I can learn something. I've even walked away from meetings ticked off, something was said that for whatever reason I let it bother me. And I come home and I'm like, why am I resentful right now? What's going on in my heart? And I would pray and I go, oh, there it is. Something within me was threatened. And then I give that to my higher power and I try not to let that kind of stuff bother me anymore. So I learned something there, even from the seemingly negative experience. Failure oftentimes is where grace can really shine. It's just feedback, right? To become better. So I'm trying to celebrate some of these negative things and these failures, right? And then going back to, the principles before personalities, I have to remember the reason I'm at the fellowship is because I need it. I need recovery, and maybe I can be of service to somebody else too. So I might not always agree with what, everything that's being said or anything like that, but that's okay. Who cares? We're all different people. But at the same time, we share the same common problem in our alcoholism and the same solution. So I look for those two similarities right there. And I can find common ground. It's like the two, polarizing sides of the political spectrum too, right? The far right and the far left or whatever. But if I were really get to know folks and look for the similarities rather than the differences, I'm pretty confident we could find some common ground somewhere. Great stuff. But my friends, that's all we have time for today. I hope you all have a great one. Please know, as always, I don't speak on behalf of NA, Al-Anon, AA, any other sect or denomination. I'm just a joyful drunk in this lifeboat of recovery, honored to be here another day. And if we're given another set of 24 hours, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.